What is up, everybody? It is HomiesOfMars back again today with another comparison guide, and I know I haven't made one a very long time. That's because I've been taking a break, but now that I'm back to playing Realm again for a while, I'm sure it'll be a long time. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it'll be a while. Trust me, guys. Don't worry. But anyways, I want to go ahead and talk about two classes that use staffs, and that is the Necromancer and the Wizard. Of course, there is the Mystic, but we don't really have to talk about him. Anyways, I wanted to break this guide down, like I want to do most of my guides that are having to do with class comparison guides, into to 6 different sections. So you'll see something on the screen right now, the 6 different sections of the guide. But we're going to go ahead and go by those sections, and hope you enjoy the video, because I will make sure to work good enough on it so you guys can get as much information as you need. Alright, so the first things first, I want to talk about their stats, what they max at. This gives you a good playing field on kind of what the class specializes in. Alright, so we're first going to talk about the Wizard first, and then we're going to talk about the Necromancer. So the Wizard, his stat maxes are as followed. HP is 670. Magic is 385, or you can say mana. I like to say magic points, it's fine. Attack is 75, defense is obviously 25, speed is 50, dexterity is 75, vitality is 40, and wisdom is 60. Alright. If you didn't catch that, they're on the screen. The next thing is the Necromancer. His HP is 670, just like the Wizard. His mana is 385, just like the Wizard. His attack is 60, 15 less than the Wizard. His defense is 25, his speed is 50, his dexterity is 60, again 15 less than the Wizard. His vitality is 30, which is the lowest in the game, by the way, but is also 10 less than the Wizard. And his wisdom is 75, which is 15 more than the Wizard. Now that you know the stats, I want to talk about their abilities. Alright. The classic ability of the Wizard is his spell, and spell bombing is something that is done at every level. I mean, I remember spell bombing. I was a noob. I got a Wizard, and I would go in and spell bomb Lyman, and get that dexterity. Let me tell you, the Wizard is a great at getting dexterity, but that's not the part of this guy. We want to talk about his spell specifically. Now, here's the thing. His spells, I'm not going to compare them much, but he does have 1 UT, and he has, obviously, his 6 tiered spells. And when you get 1 full spell bomb, off on a T6 elemental detonation spell or a magic nova spell, when you get 1 full spell bomb off, it can do 2,450 damage if it's completely inside the enemy. Of course, this is not adding in the fact that he has defense. So if you have like Orcs, you're going to have to, that's going to be reduced quite a bit because of the defense he has. But if it's on a low defense, you're looking at anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 damage with a tier 6. But if you're going down to like, tier 3 or 4, which is most where, the newer players are at actually, you're looking at anywhere for 1,000 and a little bit lower than that. But that's still a lot of damage. So when you're looking at Lyman, hey, you're looking at a good amount of damage even though you have like a tier 3 or 4 spell, Anyways, I want to go talk about the Necromancer now. The Necromancer is, his spell is, now that there are pets in the game, almost, I feel like his spell isn't as useful as it used to be. Unfortunately, that is the sad part about the Necromancer. I feel like the Necromancer's fading away, and hopefully we'll be seeing a buff on them soon, but that's just, I'm not going to say anything about that. But anyways, the Necromancer, his spell, alright, he can basically, if in words, you can probably see it on the screen, but anyways, his ability goes into an area, so there's an area of effect spell, alright, and in that area, alright, it takes a certain amount of HP from every single enemy inside of it. So I guess we could use an example here. The tier 6 or the tier 5 spell will take 150 HP from each enemy that is in that area. So, that being said, if there are like 6 or 7 enemies in there, you've already healed more than what a priest can do in 1 spell. So, the Necromancer, his spell is probably the best healing spell in the game at the moment, but when you look at pets, and another thing is you have to have enemies there, so technically You know, I guess the priest is kind of good at all the time, but either way, I like the necromancer spell. It's pretty good. It heals a lot. It does good amount of damage. You know, it's a damage that it's a thing that heals and damages, which is kind of cool. It's a kind of cool trade-off. Now that we've talked about that and their abilities, you can get a good idea. Let's talk about who does more damage. Who can just do across the board more DPS? Now, if this answer wasn't already obvious, yeah, it's going to be the wizard, because he has 15 more attack, 15 more dexterity. His ability is a damaging ability. I mean, yeah, sure, I know the necromancer is a damaging ability, but really, if you're looking at single target damage, you're definitely looking at the wizard. Wizard does more damage across the board all the time. But area of effect damage, all right, you can probably pull out the necromancer for this, so he can probably do more damage to multiple enemies, but it's within a certain amount of radius, so you have to think about that too. But honestly, if you're like me, you're probably just going to be aiming for the boss the whole time, so you're going to go for the wizard on this one. He definitely has higher DPS across the board, and it's definitely noticeable, believe me. One very important thing about a class is its godland farming ability. I believe that godlands is as important just as dungeon farming is. And listen, these classes both can farm the godlands for hours and hours and hours until you don't want to play the game anymore, because they are sometimes boring classes because you keep farming on godlands, literally. I'm not joking. If you haven't disabled your sound yet for the staff, and you haven't disabled the weapon sounds yet, man, you will have a headache afterwards. Believe me, I've definitely, the only time I have my sound on Realm is so I can just hear like the enemies or my health or like my enemy getting damaged or me getting damaged, stuff like that. I turned off the weapon sounds because the staff is just so annoying. The sound on that thing, I'm not even want to play it on the video because it's so annoying. But anyways, let me tell you, you can farm godlands, okay, on a necromancer forever because of his HP, because he can heal himself and he can keep farming and he can keep farming and farming. Now, obviously, if you have a pet, then it doesn't really matter. That's why the wizard now is pretty much, in my opinion, a better godland farmer than the necromancer, because of the pet, just because you can heal yourself. But honestly, if we were looking at times with 4 pets, all right, I'm going to be honest here. I think the necromancer can last out longer. He doesn't have to nexus as much for HP. He can keep farming the godlands, and it's just an endless amounts of farming. Believe me, these 2 classes, really, really good godland farming ability classes. I would definitely recommend if you just want to farm the godlands a lot. Yeah, they're right up there beside the archer and whatnot. The next thing is dungeon farming ability. Now, we're going to start talking about the wizard first because I want to get him out of the way. Dungeon farming on the wizard is, especially, okay, sprite worlds, easy, okay, easiest thing to do on a wizard. He can stay right outside of Lyman's range. He can spell bomb him. I mean, if you want to get a dex, you want to max dex fast and you're a noob, dude, just get the wizard, all right? Get the wizard, get like a tier 4 spell, all right? You get a good staff, you know, a good robe, and dude, you're good. I mean, you can just sit back and spell bomb Lyman all day. You can take the dex from anybody most of the time. I mean, I remember I would get in a sprite world and I'd see a bunch of guys. I'm like, oh, it doesn't matter. I just spell bomb the guy, get money, get paid. Literally, okay, he's amazing on sprite worlds. Now, on other dungeons, you know, you can do other dungeons with a wizard. Abyss of Demons, I don't really think it would be wise to do it by yourself. Even, you know, if you have a pet, maybe, but Abyss of Demons are going to be a little bit hard because of his lower defense. And you can look at, you know, even UDLs aren't that bad on him. You can do UDLs definitely on a wizard. Really, he can do anything. I would just be a little bit more careful if you're doing abysses. Don't really recommend soloing them on abysses either. But if you have to, you can clear, so it's not that bad. But honestly, I don't think the only dungeon I don't think the wizard can really do is the abyss very well, unless you have like a really good pet. But at that point, it doesn't matter. But yeah, really, I think the wizard can kind of do really anything really well, because especially with his spell bombing, he can take down the bosses quick. Now, the necromancer isn't much different. You know, he can do these dungeons. He can stay up on HP. but he's not going to be looking at the same amount of damage, obviously, that the wizard is doing. He can't spellbomb like the wizard does. The wizard has a lot less mana cost on his abilities, so you can't really spam the abilities on Necro as much because they're almost double in most circumstances. Like I said, almost, not always double, but really, I don't think the Necro is very strong at all. But really, the Necromancer isn't that good in dungeons. I really wouldn't take a Necromancer to do dungeons with, honestly. That's just my opinion. The next to last thing is, how can they do Orcs? They do Orcs well, all right? And the like, definitely, okay. You know, your Wizard, Orcs 1 and Orcs 2 breeze, like he just passes right through it. Now the hard thing is rushing. All right, you know, Necromancer has a little edge because he can stay on his high on his HP. Jeez, he can stay high on his HP. All right, while he's rushing, and the Wizard doesn't have as much luck unless he has a pet. All right, and he brings these pets in because pets do affect the way classes perform. By the way, a whole lot. But once you get to the actual boss, all right, you can do Orcs 1 so easy on the Wizard. You sit back, spellbomb when he comes off of his invulnerability stage, and then with Orcs 2, you just make sure you survive the rush, and you can go ahead and spellbomb Orcs 2, get lots of loot and money, and believe me, I think anything that the Necromancer can do, the Wizard can do better in most circumstances, except for Godland farming. Really, Orcs 1 and 2, it's better, in my opinion, on the Wizard. Just gonna say that right there. The last thing, I like to save this for the last thing because this is more of a thing that you do later in your realm career. Really, is doing tombs. Now you can talk about the shatters, you can talk about the Forbidden Jungle and whatnot, but I think the tomb is a very important dungeon that every person that is like well played in the game. If you haven't played a tomb yet and you've been playing the game for a while, you need to learn how to tomb because tombs are so important. They drop life potions. That is a very important potion. And life potions are a big part of the economy. Okay, and this is why I'm specifically talking about the tomb in its own category. Now, the Wizard and the Necromancer in the tomb. Okay, obviously they're not going to be rushing them. I wouldn't even say a Necromancer would rush a tomb, but literally, if you're just going to sit there and be an anchor, maybe. Here's my opinion. I would rather have a Wizard in the tomb than a Necromancer most of the time. Although, yes, Wizards, if you're spellbombing, you might accidentally hit another tomb god. So make sure you don't just spellbomb on the first 3 bosses. You usually save that for later. But because you don't have to worry about it, you don't have to really worry about spellbombing. You just use your staff. Okay, and your staff will apply the adequate damage you need to get soulbound. Believe me. And it's going to be a lot easier to do that on the Wizard because he has higher attack and higher dexterity. And, the Necromancer can do it, all right? He can definitely do tombs just like the Wizard can. He's just going to do them slower, because his damage isn't as much. But, a Necromancer, he can kind of focus in on his skulls a little bit easier because the range isn't, like, that big compared to the range of a Wizard. Okay, it's because the Wizard, his spellbomb can kind of go everywhere, and it has a long range. It can go into any other tomb god that's there and might awaken them. Although one bolt may not awaken them, but a couple will, and that is one thing you have to worry about. So, really, though, I would personally prefer using a Wizard in a tomb over a Necromancer. That's just me. Maybe people have a different opinion, but really, they can both do tombs, especially just the boss phase. They can do them. They can even clear Sarks very well. They can do that also. But yeah, I believe that they are both tomb capable as long as you have the right stats maxed.